what Jesus is talking about. First things first, he's talking about the word. When you know what I want you to do, and how do we know what he what he wants us to do? We look in the word. When you know what I want you to do and you don't do it, there is severe punishment for that. Y'all with me so far? So the first thing Jesus gives us insight to is you got to know what he wants. You have to know what he wants. Now, how do we know what he wants? Right, you look in the word, you talk to him. That's the only way that you know what he wants. You just simply ask him, Lord, what is it that you want me to do today? Lord, how can I be of service to you today? I can tell you this, when I'm driving to work every day, God, you know what? This day is really about you. How can I be of service to you today? Now, you got to know when you ask, the enemy's going to be right there around the corner with something else. Something's always going to happen. I always say this, just be prepared for something to happen, because it just is. You know what I'm saying? You've got to ask God, what is it that you want? And the way you know that is prayer and getting into the word. You know what Moses did in Exodus 33 and 13? He says, God, listen, if you say that you know me and that you've called me by name, he says, here's what I want you to do. He says, I want you to show me your ways. Basically what Moses was saying, okay, God, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to do it? That's very, very important that you know what he wants. You can't know if you don't look into the word. We need to be about telling people. I'm going to tell you, and then you need to, I know you know, but this is what I am. I'm the CRO, the Chief Reminding Officer. Along with the pastor, I'm the chief reminder. A lot of times I tell you stuff you already know, but I'm going to tell you this again. There's no way you can know how to get your life done effectively if you don't know how he wants you to live it. There's just no way. So you say, well, I had success for about 20 years of my life before I even know. No, I'm talking about God's kind of success. Because listen, every knee's going to bow one day eventually, right? And see, the enemy will even give you small wins to keep you going in the way that you're going. Did you hear what I said? The enemy will give you small wins to keep you going down a certain path. As long as he knows that you think you got it all figured out, you're not really concerned about what God wants, but you're only concerned about what you want. The enemy will slip some things in there for you to keep you just going right along. He's like, I got you now. I got you now. But you need to understand that that's not possible. And our job as believers is to tell people there's no way you know what your life can be if you don't know what God wants. There's no way it can happen. Here's what I want to tell to you. Here's what I want to say to you. It's very important that when God tells you stuff, that you do what he tells you to do. Adam knew exactly what God wanted. Remember what it said. It says a servant who knows what the master wants and does not do it. When it says and is not prepared to do it and does not follow the instructions will be, you understand all that. Adam knew exactly what God wanted in the Garden of Eden. Does anybody in here think that Adam was confused about what God said? Sometimes we need to stop acting like we're confused about what God said. Sometimes he can speak stuff and say stuff to us, and we know that it was God, but we act like we're confused about it. Sometimes we can read stuff in the book, and it's talking plain language to you, and sometimes it makes sense, and we still act confused. I think that's what Adam and Eve did. All it took was for the enemy to show up and say, did he really say that? And now all of a sudden they act like they're confused. They weren't confused when God told them that whatever's in the garden, you can have it. Because they liked the blessing. You catch that? They weren't confused about the blessing. But when God put some limitations on what they could do, all of a sudden they got confused. And so you know what happened. They knew what God wanted. The question is, did they do what he wanted? Did they do what God wanted? No, they didn't. The enemy showed up. He talked to Eve. Eve talked to Adam, and it was over. They knew what he wanted. I want to say this too. Cain knew exactly what God wanted. You see where I'm going with this? He knew exactly what God wanted. God would have never held Cain accountable for not bringing to him what he expected if he had known about it. I don't believe God will ever hold you accountable for stuff that you don't know. It's when you know. Does that make sense? How can I? This is the Edge Church, so y'all can just correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe, that may be too sensitive. Let me skip and go to something else. Yeah, let's just go to a 9-month-old baby. I don't believe if a 9-month-old baby left this world, God would ever condemn him to hell. Because they were never accountable to knowing. Does that make sense? So you understand what I'm saying? Is that easy to understand for you right there? Cain knew exactly what God, the kind of offering that God would accept. Abel knew. You mean to tell me Adam sit down and taught Abel the right thing, but he just skipped, Cain? No, he had both of those boys together. He was like, look, when you bring an offering to the Lord, this is what you do. You bring him the first of your. Problem is, only one of them did what God wanted them to do. So Cain did what he wanted to do, and there was severe punishment. You understand what I'm saying? He knew what God wanted him to do,